Good morning, everybody. I'd like to welcome you here today to this presentation, which is facilitated by Future Communities. Um, and this presentation is funded by the National Lottery Community Funds Awards for All programme, and is part of a community wellness hub. If you go onto Future Communities website, you will see a range of resources and materials. And Future Communities has also got a YouTube channel, which you can see this and other presentations. It is being recorded today and will go on YouTube within the next week. So I'd like to now hand it over to Kika and Sally, who are going to do today's presentation, and we'll take you through it, and then we'll be able to answer any questions that you've got after the presentation. So over to you, Sally and Kika.
Hello. Morning. Thanks for joining us today. I'm Sally, and this is my friend and business partner, Kika. Together we run Gaia Wellbeing Collective, and we run an array of sort of outdoor sessions ranging from boot camps to women's circles and laughter therapy. And this is all sort of surrounded by nature or in proximity to nature. And we do this because by being close to nature, and this heightens the benefits of our sessions. So our intention for this morning,
yeah, can everybody see, just checking if everybody can see our first slide? Can we have just a thumbs up? Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, cool. Okay, so our intention for this morning is to take you on an exploration of menopause and language. And by the end of the morning, our aim is to show you how the psychology of language influences our lived experience and offers some easy, actionable ways we can positively embrace our journey through menopause. We'll explore how Western culture negatively sets us up to have a rough ride. Menopause really shouldn't be seen as an ending. It's a pivotal transition that defines who we are. Language, however, plays a really crucial role in shaping our experience. And that's because words have power. I want to share with you a little bit about how I landed on this topic. So my background, I have a background in psychology, and one of the standout lectures looked at language and its ability to shape perspective and opinion, and in turn our experience. So if I throw out a couple of examples for you, you have Darren Brown, who is that famous sort of hypnotist, NLP guy who is often has his shows on Christmas specials, that kind of thing. He will use language, words to influence the behaviour of his participants within his shows. You can also see the power of language through newspaper reporting, depending on how the journalist words the story. There is usually some kind of agenda behind this, and it's dependent on who's in charge of the newspaper. The journalist has this power of language to lead the reader to think and feel a particular angle on the story being reported. So I guess you're wondering, how does this link to menopause? So if we sort of look at, oh, I've gone one slide too fast, too quickly, ladies. So if we link this into menopause, so the language that we commonly hear sort of connected to menopause is decline, grumpy, brain fog, moody, being past it. And as women, we're sort of portrayed as this hysterical, mad, uncontrollable being, and where our hormones are concerned. And what I find quite interesting is that if we look at the history of menopause research, in the 1960s was when estrogen was isolated as a hormone, very key to our sort of declining hormone levels in menopause and our symptoms. And this gave dawn to estrogen, HRT. And it was actually promoted as, and I quote to you, "This will make your wife more bearable to live with." Okay. I'm just going to say that again for you. This will make your wife more bearable to live with. What a way to promote. Okay. Even if we look at the root of estrogen, so estro meaning frenzy, and gen to mean to create or produce. So even the root of the word estrogen gives off this the connotations of some kind of mad, enraged sort of being. So historically, we've been stereotyped as these crazy, moody hags by the time we hit menopause. And is it any wonder that we worry as we approach menopause with a fair amount of nerves and a lot of trepidation? Definitely for myself, approaching menopause, I am sort of tiptoeing towards it, thinking, what will be that path ahead of me? It sounds awful if you buy into this narrative 100%. But if we look cross-culturally, the view of menopause is very different. And that's not to say that it's a bed of roses, but the lived experience and the approach is completely different. So if we look at Mexico, indigenous cultures view postmenopausal women as wisdom keepers and spiritual leaders, the age of the grandmother. Now that sounds a heck of a lot more positive than being some crazy moody hag. If we then flip to India, Ayurvedic practice sees us as holding wisdom, introspection, detachment from worldly concerns, and spiritual liberation. And then if we go over to Japan and China, my favorite, it's seen as a second spring, signifying renewal of energy and purpose. So I just want you to take a moment just to compare the different linguistic approaches and how that might alter your view of menopause. And I know for myself, those three examples that I've given, that gives me a much more positive outlook that doesn't feel quite so foreboding in comparison to our Western approach. So I'm going to now link it back to sort of language and how our body sort of experiences language by taking you through a couple of pop quizzes. So I'm going to get us to have a little game of yes, no. So this game of yes, no, we're going to say, and we can keep ourselves on mute, but for around about a minute to 90 seconds, I'm going to ask you just to say the word yes, but I want you to shake your head. Okay, so you can even say it quietly in your head or you can say it out loud, but I just want you to be shaking the head as if it's a no, but you're actually saying verbally a yes. Okay, and what I want you to do is just notice how it feels to have those two conflicting and opposing words and gestures. Okay, so when you're ready, ladies, let's go for a minute. Ready? Okay, so yes, 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 yes. Whew. I don't know about you, but that feels really weird to try and like get the coordination of the words as well. Feels really mismatched. Did anyone else have anything that came up for them? If you would drop it into the chat, any thoughts that initially came to your mind with that? I'll just give you a moment. You felt dizzy. Yeah, no, definitely. I would agree with that. It for me, it feels quite centered into my tummy. It feels like this And my tummy's telling me this just doesn't feel quite right, because there's a mismatch. Okay, so I'm going to do a second little quiz with you. Okay, and I'm going to read out two different descriptions of people, and I want you to type in your in the comments your first sort of like evaluative words of these descriptions. Okay, so this is Sarah. She often takes time to chat with colleagues and is known for her welcoming smile. In group settings, she has a gentle, encouraging laugh that helps others feel at ease. Friends describe her as someone who listens with genuine interest and brings people together. She enjoys spending time with others and finds it easy to connect. So, if you could, in the comments, just rate Sarah's friendliness. Any words that initially pop into your mind about Sarah. Would you like to be Sarah's friend?
I'm sorry, I have a headache.
Yes, sorry, Sharon.
I just saw your comment on the chat.
So how do you evaluate Sarah? What do you think of her? I mean, she sounds quite friendly to me. Good morning, Grace. Welcome.
Good morning.
Yes, she seems really friendly and approachable, and I think she'd be a good listener. She does sound quite friendly. Yeah, cool. Okay, I'll move. Yes, perfect. BFF, great. Okay, so let's just have a little look at an alternative. So this is Sarah. She often keeps herself at work, keeps herself to herself at work, and is known for her polite smile. In group settings, she is quiet, restrained, that makes her harder to read. Friends describe her as someone who listens with detached curiosity and tends to keep her distance. She spends time with others occasionally, but prefers to stay more independent. Okay, so that's a completely different description of Sarah. How does that land with you? If you want to just drop some bits or comments in the chat, just to get a comparison of our two Sarahs. Not as approachable, but I find her hard to read. Yeah. Closed. Yeah, no, she's definitely a lot more closed, isn't she? But I think interesting, I mean, it doesn't necessarily make her not a nice person, but it's the feel that we get from her. We know that she's not, I mean, maybe she's a bit more closed because maybe she's socially awkward, but that gives us a very different feel as to, out of the two Sarahs, who we would instantly be drawn to and who we would want to have as our BFF. So those were both exercises taken from a psychology research papers, and they help us to illustrate the power of language. And so the yes/no game is a simple mismatch of language and bodily gestures, which creates tension in the body and mind. And then our descriptions of Sarah highlight subtle differences in descriptor and how they influence our perception. And this is what's happening when we listen to messages and words our culture uses to describe menopause. So technically what is happening is priming. And priming is the unconscious process where exposure to stimulus influences an individual's response to a subsequent related stimulus. Okay, and so this, as I said, is what's happening when we listen to those words and messages from our culture. So I'll just flip back to the thought that HRT will make us more bearable. Okay, that we are portrayed as hysterical, mad, and uncontrollable. And I mean, imagine just listening to those words and how that primes us. So the research shows that in cultures like Mexico, where women are positively primed to view menopause through a brighter and more optimistic lens, feel physical effects of menopause differently, with fewer reported symptoms and intensity. But please note, this doesn't mean that cross-culturally symptoms are not experienced at all. It's just all that it sucks at times, because it does suck at times. But the difference is the intensity and the well-being outcomes for the women, because there isn't this connection with such negatively weighted words. The experience of the symptoms isn't as great. So again, just to reiterate, it's not that they don't experience anything, it's just that the experience is different in intensity. So language sort of really matters, and this takes me back to our opening comment of proposing to reframe our language, which helps us reclaim our womanly power. And before I hand over to Kika, I just want to share with you two of my favourite facts on menopause that help me reframe and empower my narrative as I approach menopause. So brain fog is a very classic symptom that we're told about or to prepare for. And research actually shows that on average, women in menopause outperform age-matched men cognitively. So this is even though we notice a dip during menopause, we still outperform at several cognitive tasks, including measures of processing speed and verbal memory. And this is mainly due to men having a steeper decline at the same age. And the second fun fact that keeps me on track is to compare myself to my teenage son, who is going through all sorts of different changes at the moment. And similarly, we have this shared sort of like neurological architectural shift that's going on. So menopause, we really should consider it as a significant but dynamic neurological transition. And the temporary cognitive changes that we experience during this period are just part of the adaptive process as the brain reshapes itself. So there's lots of scope for neuroplasticity, neural pruning, and reshaping. So it's this really powerful sort of rebirthing when we really take away those negatively weighted words and look at menopause through a different lens. So I'm going to pass over to Kika now. I've done sort of the sciencey bit, and Kika is going to guide us through some actionable ways we can bring some changes to our menopausal narrative.
Okay, hello everyone. So I'm Kika, the other half of Gaia Wellbeing Collective. And just for context, I am post-menopausal, so I've been through the whole thing and I'm on the other side of it. I'm going to talk about embodying what we're calling the second spring. So Sally has explained to us how our menopause programming affects our lived experience of it. So what can we do with this knowledge now that we know all of it? How can we truly embody the menopause as the second spring? So first, what does embodiment even mean? And in a simple sense, I see it as when an idea, a value, or a feeling becomes part of who we really are, part of our core, and it shows up in our body, either through our posture, through the way we move, through the way we are present, and especially through our behavior. So many people associate embodiment with physical action or physicality, but in fact, it's about the connection between the body and the mind. It's sending these ideas to our subconscious and to these deeper levels of ourselves so that they become part of who we are. And I could go into a philosophical discussion about a subconscious. I actually love that. Because I do believe that our subconscious is not only a realm of the mind, as we were thought to believe. But instead, it's this, I think the subconscious is this connection between the body and the mind. But we don't have time for this. So I'll just say that to me, embodying the second spring means to unlearn these old programs that have been stored in our subconscious body and mind, and then replace them with new ones. So how can we do that? The first step is to start letting go of the old programs. And what can we let go of? So what do we need to let go of to make space for this new way of looking at menopause? So I will invite you now to think of the first words that come to your mind when you think about menopause, and maybe what feelings do they come with? And if you could, please maybe drop them on the chat. Whatever comes to mind first, you don't need to overthink. You think of the menopause, what feelings do you get? What sensations do you get? What do you associate it with? And if you could maybe drop a few thoughts in the chat, that would be great. Stop trying to fit in. That's a good one. and a positive one, actually. Confidence lost, powerless and invisible, irritated. Yeah, mostly words with a negative weight, a negative connotation, isn't it? Low mood, anxiety, grumpy, confidence loss, hot flushes. Yes, yes, all of them there. Thank you. So what can we start to let go of? So yes, the change, old hormonal chaos, decline, loss of fertility, hot flushes, brain fog, pause. So all these words that you've dropped in the chat. And the question is, what can we start calling in? So what words can we use to replace these old programs? And so instead of the change, we can use renew. Instead of old, transformation. We are, in fact, transitioning into a new phase, as Sally mentioned. Instead of chaos, recalibration. Our hormones are adapting to this new phase where our bodies don't need to prepare to bear a child on a monthly basis anymore. We are not declining, we are evolving. Our brain is literally reshaping to adapt to these changes. Loss of fertility also can be the birth of freedom to so many women. My personal experience is that during my fertile years, I had extremely painful menstrual bleeds, and all my life I had like very, very excruciating pains due to an undiagnosed endometriosis. I also suffered from migraines every time I ovulated and got my period. So I'm happy to report that all of this is gone. So yes, there are good things that come with this transition. And so Sally talked to us about the ability of our brains to adapt. And just to reiterate it in an embodiment context, when we repeat a phrase, whether positive or negative, our brain fires the same set of neurons again and again. And if we keep saying, I'm losing it, the brain wires their expectations into our self-perception, which then shows up in our body, either as slumped posture or shallow breathing or tension or even pain sometimes. But when we choose a new phrase like I am in renew, we activate a different circuit in our brain. And we call up this imagery of growth, of expansion, of possibility, and then the body responds accordingly. So your shoulders might open, your breath might deepen, your mood might lighten. And repetition, so the more we do it, the more this pathway will strengthen until it becomes a more natural response, until it becomes truly embodied. So we talked a lot about words, but where do these words come from? I love this quote. So watch your thoughts, for they become your words. Watch your words, for they become actions. Watch your actions, for they become habits. Watch your habits, for they become character. Watch your character, for it becomes your destiny. So the words we use come from the thoughts we think. So to embody new words, we need to come a step back, because it's in fact our thoughts that will shape those words. So by changing our thoughts, we can then change our words, and then by change our words, we can then change our habits and our lived experience. And that applies to the menopause, but it also applies to anything else. So how do we do it? Practice, 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 practice. I personally don't like the concept of practice makes perfect. I think that the search for perfection kills creativity and make everything harder. But practice certainly makes permanent. So what practices can help us embody the menopause as the second spring? Mindfulness and meditation are a great start, and we can all do it despite the popular belief that meditation is hard. It doesn't need to be. We don't need to sit at the top of a mountain, crossed leg, feeling uncomfortable and trying to empty our minds, which at the best of times it seems like an impossible task for most people. So meditation doesn't need to be about emptying our minds. It can be the simple act of noticing our thoughts. And we can do that anywhere. We can do that anytime, in the train, in the office, when we're cooking. You take your pick. And all we need to do is to start noticing what thoughts we have. And that will then give us that space and the power to change them. And I mean noticing with curiosity, so not judgment. We're not judging our thoughts, we're just noticing what is there. And so, what does it look like? And it's just like, what am I thinking? And where is this thought coming from? And how does it make me feel? And how can I change it if it's not making me feel comfortable? So just noticing again and again and again, and that alone will help lead to change. Journaling is another incredibly useful and effective practice. It also allows us to process and understand our thoughts, and it will also give that distance from our thoughts and any emotions that are attached to them, so we can have the power to change them. So set an intention to write about your experience of the menopause, your fears, your hopes of this next stage in your lives. And the chances are you'll also start to see some change. And finally, affirmations. I'm personally not a big fan of using affirmations alone as a way to embody something, but because I think affirmations are too much in the realm of the mind. But I think when combined with these other practices, they can certainly help. So things like, I am in renewal, this is my second spring, I embody wisdom, freedom, and vitality. My body is recalibrating. I am blooming into my fullest self. Each day I grow stronger and more open. Whatever works for you. I think you can choose one phrase. You don't need many. You just choose one that really feels true for you. And yeah, I think that is a key point. It really needs to be something that resonates and feel true for you. And then repeat it daily. You can repeat it in the mirror. You can repeat silent in your head. You can repeat while you're walking. And the more we repeat these new words, the more they will become our embodied reality. And I would invite you to feel these affirmations in your body when you say them, because that will help them stick. also, I think very importantly, share your affirmations with others. Share them with your kids, with your partners, with your friends. When we speak it out loud to others, language then spreads, and when we share empowering words, we are not just rewiring our own brain, we're also helping reshape the collective story of menopause. Yeah, there are other practices that might not relate directly to embodying the concept of menopause as second spring, but they can indirectly help as they sort of underpin our mental and physical health, which are both really important through all our lives, I suppose, but especially through menopause. So we all know how beneficial it is, so I'm not going to try to sell it, but just a reminder that movement and time in nature are more effective than antidepressants to make us happy. So get out there, move. Moving is also a type of meditation. It brings us to the present moment. It brings us out of our minds and into our bodies. And also, I'm going to add a little story here because I heard the other day and I thought it was really cute. Is the story of how birds singing help trees to open their stomata, so their pores, so they can retrieve more nutrients and water from the soil. So there's so much synergy in nature, and we also know it has a huge physiological and psychological impact on us. So if the trees hearing the birds singing help us, imagine what it does to us. So yes, my advice is, if you can, get out there, even if it's just for a walk in the park, get out there as much as you can. And finally, find community. I think that is really, really important. Find like-minded people that will give you a sense of belonging. Belonging is such a primal need, and we don't have the village anymore, so we need to go out and look for it. Community is, I think, where this new language can then become your lived experience, because you're going to be sharing that with others. So yeah, I want to finish with a little whale tale. Does anyone know what whales can teach us about the menopause? Maybe you've heard this story before. I'm not sure, but I find it really, really inspiring and fascinating. So humans and whales are the only mammals known to experience menopause. And when scientists studied whale pods, they discovered something that is really fascinating. So once the females stop reproducing, so once they go into menopause, they don't become irrelevant, they become the leaders. So they guide the pods and they share memory of previous feeding grounds, and they keep the group alive through their wisdom, basically. And what this research showed us is that menopausal whales become even more relevant as leaders when times are tough and food populations are at their lowest. So at the hardest times, they become even more important. And I love this because it reminds us that menopause is not about decline. It's about stepping into this new role as guides, as carriers of knowledge, as anchors for the community. And just like the whales, this is our second spring, is our time to lead, to nurture, and to step into our power and to live from the wisdom that we've accumulated through our lifetime. And it's not only, as Sally mentioned, it's not only the whales that teach us this. Many ancient cultures also saw menopause as the time when women stepped into their power, either as elders or wisdom keepers, as leaders for the communities. So it's really time that we, oh, sorry, I lost my slides. So yeah, so yeah, I think is my, I'm just getting to the end, and I just wanted to say that it's really time that we reclaim the menopause as the beginning of our leadership years and our second spring. But before I finish, I want to acknowledge that it's not all blossoms. As Sally mentioned, is a transition, and like every transition, it can be incredibly challenging. Transitions are what they are. They are moments of unraveling and becoming, and every major shift in life, if we look at all those major shifts that happen throughout our lifetimes, they all carry both losses and renewal. So if you look at puberty, childbirth, heartbreak, moving homes, changing careers, there are always losses and gains attached to all of it, and the menopause is no different. It asks us to pause, to shed what no longer serves, and to make space for what is emerging. And I think that when we stop resisting and begin to flow with the change, it transforms from something to endure into something to grow through. So how can we truly honor this whole process? I think that as we reframe menopause as a second spring, we also need to recognize that this season can bring disruptions to our sleep, to our moods, to our relationships, to our work, and to our very sense of identity. So acknowledging this impact won't take away its power. I think it will just help us meet it in a more conscious way. And I think we can do this by listening to our bodies rather than pushing through. We are living in times where we are told we need to work through things, and we need to, and our bodies don't want to do that. So I think listening to our bodies rather than pushing through everything is a great way to get into this second spring frame of mind. Creating supportive spaces to share our experiences without judgment. So I talked about community before. Asking for what we need, be it at home, at work, or in community. We need to learn to ask for what we need, and allowing times for rest and renew, just as nature does between the seasons. So I think that when we approach it in this way, we turn a struggle into wisdom, and only then can the menopause truly become the second spring, which would then be grounded in what is real and really authentic. So yes, thank you very much. Yeah, so we are open. I think we've got quite a bit of time for questions. If anyone has any questions or any comments or anything that wants to come out, yeah, please share with us. And thank you for listening. Thank you.
I wanted to just
yeah, you can either drop a question on the chat or
can I quickly just make a comment? My hands are busy. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, thank you for sharing. As someone who is going through the menopause, I was kind of wondering, am I going to learn anything new? But this has been so empowering, and I'm just really pleased that I made it here today.
Yay.
Just thinking of menopause as the second spring, as coming into a place of power, of leadership, and in all of it, it's been so empowering. And I just want to say thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you,
yeah,
Grace.
that warms my heart. So there's a comment on the chat. So I think one of the major issues with the menopause is the lack of medical understanding or knowledge. I cannot get an appointment with a professional or discuss my HRT. as it's not working yet. Absolutely. And yeah, that resonates so much. I had to wait for about almost a year to get an appointment at the menopause clinic. So I could see my GP, but the GPs basically just look online to see what they should do. And then I asked for a referral, and it took me a year to get it. So yes, I don't know what to say about it. It is sad. I just feel everybody's pain because I've been there. So yes, it is very difficult. Very, very difficult.
Sorry, that was from me. I was just going to say I was fine with HRT, and the issue I've got is that my HRT is now no longer made by the pharmaceutical company, and they've basically changed it to a generic one. And my pharmacy couldn't get it in, and I said, oh, I'll take it. You know, I go to X, Y, and Z places, and I'm sure I'll find a pharmacy. After like nearly 2 weeks, I couldn't, so I went back. And to cut a long story short, they couldn't source it. They talked about a generic one, but I'm not great with generic medication. I've just got past experience that it just didn't work. So is my daughter. So in the end, they changed with something else, but I didn't see a doctor. I basically had a pharmacy technician that basically did all the liaison with the doctor and then just gave me this medication. To be fair, it worked. It worked. It was seamless in August. Never, didn't know I changed. But I then became very itchy. So I decided to look up the side effects, of which severe itchiness is a side effect, but underneath there was also a caveat that said, if you have a peanut allergy, do not take this medication. I have a peanut allergy. So I had to come off it literally straight away. And it was over the weekend, so I came off it, and I also realised I couldn't take the estrogen because you shouldn't be taking estrogen without progesterone because I've still got a womb. So I had to come off it, got a doctor's appointment on the Tuesday. The doctor gave me an open prescription. He was brilliant and said, right, go to the chemist and they'll be able to tell you which ones haven't got this ridiculous coating that a lot of them are now putting on because it's cheap. And the chemist basically couldn't give me any progesterone. She said, every single one contains this coating, so you can't have it. And she even kind of said, well, if you've tried it for 5 weeks and you've not had an allergic reaction, I said, if I died because the build up, and I died because my husband wouldn't have a leg to stand on, because I now know that there's a warning that I can't take it. So she was like, oh, yeah. So I then got another doctor's appointment, which I don't know about you, but getting a doctor's appointment where I live is just nigh on impossible. But they managed to get me another one, and I saw another doctor. And when I said about the severe itchiness, and he said about I've got a bit of a skin fungal infection, which he thought I'd got from holiday. And I said, how can I? Well, you've just got to have good hygiene. And was just so negative about my hygiene standards. And I was like, I have got good hygiene. And then he gave me something else without asking me anything about where I was in the menopause. He asked me a question, have you had an operation? And I went, no, I haven't had any operations. And then I clicked and thought, oh, he means have I had a hysterectomy? But I had to put the words in his mouth. He then gave me something which, when you read it, I couldn't take it because I actually wasn't at that part of my menopause. So eventually I had 8 days without any HRT, and my hormones have literally just floored. I've been off sick for now 6 weeks today. I am just not me. My manager actually just found it really, really tough. And she said, you've got to take time off. You are just a shadow of your former self. The brain fog is ridiculous. The anxiety, I've never had anxiety. The anxiety is ridiculous. I can't function properly. And I'm trying to be really proactive. I'm going for walks. I'm doing exercise every day, either walking or going to the gym. I've upped supplements. I'm doing everything. My B12 is low, but unfortunately, although it's 53, anything under 45, you can get B12 injections on the NHS, but anything between 45 and 950, and mine's 53, you can't. So I've tried to source that privately, and I'm waiting for somebody, but everything I'm doing is proactive. And yet I've worked out that possibly from talking to friends, like you say, trying to build these new villages, which I've really reached out at my gym and spoken to friends that have gone through it or have gone through it. And one of my friends said, two of my friends said, I don't think you're absorbing your estrogen. And maybe you should go for a joint progesterone estrogen pill, or go for apparently an estrogen pessary. So I've gone to my doctors and said, look, I've got an HRT phone consultation next Thursday. Is there any way that I could speak to the HRT nurse before then? Because I just think if we could tweak it, I could start this, and they cannot give me anything until next Thursday. And I just, I'm trying to be so proactive, but I've come to the end of the road. I can't get any help. They actually asked me, the receptionist said, why don't you try 111 last night? And I rang 111. I was probably on the phone for about 6 to 10 minutes, but they're saying they've got high volumes. I thought there could be somebody with a heart attack that needs 111. So I actually put the phone down, but I can't get any help at all.
There's Laura, just one thought with the B12. There is, have you considered having a methylated B12 and B9 combination? That might be, and you can get that in a lozenge form. You would take that once a day.
Okay.
If you put your email in the chat, I can send you a link.
Oh, brilliant! Because I'm taking B12. My husband got it for me. It's a Geeks one. It's a B12 dual powder like tablet, and I'm taking that. But yeah, no,
it has to go through a methylated process, so your body needs to methylate it to convert it so that it is usable. And sometimes we can be a bit dysfunctional in the methylation process. Okay. So you can take B12, and if it's not if your body's not methylating it, then you're not. It's not actually absorbing. So if you take a methylated B12, then it's already been activated.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. All right, I can see your email there. I'll send you.
That'd be brilliant.
Yeah, and I'll just add, Lara, I'm so sorry to hear your story, and yeah, I feel your pain, and I hope you find a way to be seen and heard, and have and that resonates a lot with me, because I've got background in research, and I went to my doctors with research showing that most, and even private practices in this country already prescribe testosterone for women during menopause, and they still haven't caught up. And all the research is saying, it should be prescribed with HRT, and they still don't do it, and it's just like, it is frustrating. And yeah, I'm so sorry going through it, and I think that, as I think I mentioned that on the presentation, and I think it's the right thing to take time off work, and it's absolutely right, the right thing to do. And
I'm struggling with it because I never take time off. I've had 2 days off in 12 years, and that was for COVID, and that's my struggle.
Yeah, I used to have like unbearable menstrual pain as a teenager, and I was made, and most girls were made to just pretend nothing was happening and just keep going. And it's the same now. And I wish, and I think things are changing, and I wish at the time people could say to me, no, it's okay for you to stay home. Your body just needs a rest, and that's okay for you to just rest. And I think it's the same now. You don't need to feel guilty about it. You need to honor what your body's asking you to do. And I hope you can find the medical help that you need.
I actually also, when I get through the other side, I actually kind of almost want to be a bit of a voice, because, I've learned so much in that GPs have half an hour training. That's it. And we've got an HRT menopause nurse who is amazing, but she was away. She was off sick, then she was on holiday, then she was doing COVID and flu jabs, and there's nobody that can do what she does. Even the doctor on Monday, when I had all the things, and I said about testosterone, and she said, I'm so sorry, I've got a basic understanding of HRT. I can prescribe like patches initially, but she said, the questions you're asking about how we can tweak your medication because things aren't working, you need to talk to the HRT nurse. And I was like, right, great. But then you then got the block, you can't get an appointment. And she's even got some kind of sessions where she should be doing smear tests or immunisations that haven't actually been allocated, like she's not been allocated to a patient. And I said, and the receptionist was saying to her colleague, can we not give Lara one of those? And so she could have like some free time, but they can't put me in to talk. And I don't even need to see her. I'm saying just literally a phone call, 10 minutes to like ask those questions that you just said. Do you reckon I could like have some testosterone? Do you reckon I could try a combined? And there's just nothing. And I think that's what I really think as an advocate, I think we've got to change.
Yeah, it's worth us sort of just acknowledging as well that it's in 1993 that they've changed the rules on medical research with women, and up until then it had been thought that either the research would be like not usable because of our fluctuating hormones over a monthly cycle, and therefore the research would be too hard, too complicated to get any decent data. And secondly, that if you're testing any kind of drugs, that it would affect fertility, unborn babies. And so I mean 1993, that's not that long ago, that they've had these very, very sort of like old-fashioned views on protecting our fertility for the sake of this, and for our hormone, for sort of the sake of saving money and time and effort, to not really explore our hormones. And it couldn't be that complicated for them to structure some research. So things are changing, but I mean, from 1993 onwards, I think we've, hopefully things will start to change, and the more we sort of get our voices heard, and our stories out there, and collectively try and bring about change, we will see differences for our daughters and their daughters as well.
And I do think with your start of your thing about sort of talking about the different countries and their whole kind of perception of the menopause, and kind of their thoughts and how they kind of, it's more positive. I think that actually has helped a bit, because you kind of think, actually, it shouldn't be like this. So actually, some of the words that you said at the beginning, I was kind of thinking, and actually that whole thing that you said about in the 1960s about make your wives more bearable, I kind of think that's kind of where a lot of doctors are still at. But but no, thank you ever so much. As I say, my colleague sent me she was on the chat. She sent me the link. Like to say, I'll send it to you privately. So it was, it's really helpful. And that lady that came on and said, yes, whilst you haven't kind of said, oh, you could have this, this, and this, you've given a different perspective on it, which actually has been quite positive. And it's kind of, to take away that actually it's not our fault, and actually we've got to be more positive about it. So thank you very much.
You're very welcome.
I'll just drop our website on the chat if anyone is interested. We don't do menopausal work as such, but we work with women. We run women's circles. Sometimes we talk about, more often than not, we talk about the menopause. We run outdoor boot camps and laughter sessions. So if anyone is interested, please do get in touch.
Lovely, thank you.
Yes, please, ladies, and I hope things get improved for you, Lara.
Same, Lara.
Thank you. Good luck. Bye.
And thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Are we able to paste that copy that I've done? I don't know how long.
This?
No, I just copied Laura's email. So I could enter. If we can paste it somewhere where I can.
Okay, are we finished now, Kika and Sally?
Yes, unless anyone has any more questions or anything to say. I think people are slowly leaving.
I'd just like to say a very big thank you to both of you, Kika and Sally, for a very interesting presentation and some interesting points. I have to say I'm quite shocked by some of these. I think it's appalling that people can't get the treatment that they need for obviously what are significant medical issues. It looks like one of these things where you have these kind of holes in the system, and they seem almost impossible to block. But it's quite shocking, really, and deserves publicity.
That could be a whole nother talk.
Yes, I'd just like to say to people that the few that are left that there are resources on our website that you can access, and this presentation will be on our YouTube channel, and a copy of the PowerPoint will also be on the Future Communities website. You should have those details. If you haven't got them, then please contact us. And I'd like to sign off by thanking Kika and Sally once again for a very good presentation. And I hope that we'll be able to provide more resources in this area in future. So thank you very much, both of you.
Thank you. Thank you for having us, Gary.
Thanks.
Yeah,
Bye.
definitely. Okay, take care. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.